Today, we have a special Parte Dos episode. We have Greg Prosser, founder and CEO of Hansel Medical. Now, this is the second time that I've had Greg on. He was guest number 7 on the podcast back in April of 2025, so a perfect 1-year check-in. We catch up on Hansel's growth over the past year and their transition to having some early adopters. We talk about balancing aggressive goals, but accepting how things can still move slower than we want at times. And finally, what work actually looks like as a founder, some of the pressures, and just some of that work-life balance stuff. It was super great to catch up with Greg, to get an update on what they're working on and see their continual path toward success. I hope you guys really enjoy episode 20 of How Not to Build. If you like this content, if you want more of these podcasts, you can now go to app.fanbravo.com/Dan-Gemini. And you can send me a tip, a little $5 tip to say thanks. Also, this is a shameless plug, you guys, because we, Gemini, are actively helping Fan Bravo build out their fan-to-creator platform. So I'm excited about it. It's a great platform, and I would love for you to check it out and just let us know what you think. Greg?
Hey,
it's good
Dan.
to see you again.
Good to see you too, brother.
Dude.
The hair's a little longer than last time.
It's a little longer. I know. I was looking at that in the last video. I was like, I
literally buzz cut to Fabio.
Don't think I've cut my hair once since the last episode we did together. So I know I told my wife too. I was like, I don't know. I think I'm keeping it this time. I think it's here to stay.
Yeah,
we'll see.
That's good.
She has an opinion.
Both look
about
good,
that.
man.
So yeah, man, you look good too. So we were episode 7 on How Not to Build on the podcast.
I didn't realize it was episode 7.
It's episode 7.
We talked about.
Yeah, and it was recorded April 1st, I think, or at least in April 2025. So it's been almost a year. Just shy of a year, right? 10 months or something.
No, you said April early. Yeah. Okay, yeah. 11 months.
So 11 months. Yeah. 11 months since we last talked. When I talked to you last time, you had not yet gotten funded, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
You were still doing things on your own. You had a co-founder that you were hoping to bring on, but he wasn't full-time yet. Give us the quick sketch, man. What's happened in the last 11 months?
Yeah, we executed on everything that we thought we would, I guess.
What? That never happened.
Well, you alluded. You said you hadn't hit funding. You said you hadn't hit funding yet. So obviously, we did.
Congratulations, man.
Thanks. Yeah. I mean, candidly, I think I mentioned this in the last conversation. Like the getting of the funding, like getting Jason full time. I can say it now. Like he's not full time. His last job.
Who was also on the podcast. Yeah. Great conversation, especially if you're a technical person.
Jason, CTO, the wizard. Yeah, I think the biggest thing from closing the funding was like getting him full time. It was just a catalyst to allow that.
Yeah.
I mentioned that as happening. Interestingly enough, when we met last year in April, I think the first wave of funding closed in the beginning of March. So it was literally 1 month in the first wave.
So the podcast definitely helped that. No, I'm just kidding. It probably had nothing to do with it.
I mean, it probably didn't hurt. I mean, I wouldn't doubt if our investors, we have Wild Tree Ventures that led the round, early stage pre-seed firm. They've been fantastic partners. I don't know. I can't remember when we put it up on YouTube. But if they're investing in us, I wouldn't be surprised if the general partners looked at the video. Maybe they. So hopefully doesn't hurt anyways. Yeah. It's just funny, like it was a month later, we closed the first wave of money that came in was about $250K, and Jason had a 6-month notice period. I don't know if we talked about that.
I don't think so. 6 months.
UK.
I don't think he even mentioned that, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, I mean, you guys talked more technical stuff.
Yeah,
and his architect role. I watched it.
So he had to stay with his current job for 6 months
contract. Oh, it was in his contract. They actually upped it from 3 months to 6 because of his role in that firm.
Wow.
It's just differences in economies, societies, right? Yeah, very. So, but that was always something. I mean, we've always been committed to each other, but that was always something that we had to play in our timeline. So, like once the first wave of funding came, and I tipped my hat to him too. I mean, Jason's in a different personal situation than me, which is why we had to do it the way we did. He still put his notice in once that first wave, because the way we looked at it, and I respect and appreciate him for it too, but the way we looked at it, because he's got kids to think about, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm single. Mm-hmm. But the way we looked at it is like, if shit hit the fan and blew up, like worst case scenarios, we got enough money funded
Mhm.
for a year, like
Mhm.
resourcefully. So like even if he made that risk and something unforeseen bad happened down the line, like we would still be able to manage. Fast forward, it worked out. Like he put the notice in, formally closed the rest of the capital in September, but I didn't close the round because I had another strategic investor that I was trying to coordinate a meeting with. And then eventually it just got to a point in December-ish, just recently,
Okay.
right? Because we're late into February 26 now, where I just was like, okay, at this point, we've increased significant amount of value in the company. So those terms in the last round of investment are arguably, if that next investor comes in at some point, it's like, we'll have another round, or we would have another round, and we can increase the valuation. And I just couldn't get it coordinated. So, and again, first time founder, legalese stuff, like you got to like formally close out the round from a SEC standpoint and other things. Anyways, yeah. That all happened. So Jason's full-time and we have funding. I think those are the two biggest things. Well, those are two of the biggest things. I think the third would be we've had 3 design partners commercially using Hansel for, 6 to 9 months.
Yeah, let's talk about that because I think that's,
yeah.
You guys have hit a couple of those metrics, like you said, with the funding, with getting Jason on full-time, huge win. And it's still just the two of you.
Yeah. Yep.
Rocking the world. Yeah, tell me more about the design partners because I think you may have already had 1 or 2 that were in the works when we talked.
Yeah, the relationships were there.
Yeah.
We just hadn't gotten them live because you have to, and we had a lot of software to build and learnings to do to kind of like go through that process because initially, we were having to onboard, because again, Jason wasn't full-time until September and we were still doing some of this stuff. So we hadn't had all the like tooling in the software to kind of expedite and ease the process of onboarding things. So it was a lot of manual spreadsheets and tracking things and making sure the stuff is right. And when you're tagging equipment with devices, you cannot have dirty data in what's married. So I would be like OCD about literally like kind of double, triple checking things to make sure the thing is right. We were able to get, we had the relationships, but we actually got them live. And what we did is we started with their equipment, just for get data and testing from their users. We started with equipment that didn't have to go through the sterilization process. Okay. And then
So real quick, just for clarity for people listening, when you say design partner, that's actually maybe what I would call a beta customer, it sounds like somebody that you're working with, you're planning to deploy the product to them, but you're working with them in the interim to do all the trial and error and build it up.
Yeah, in a B2B SaaS solution, it's almost pivotal. Yeah.
We'll edit it out.
It's okay.
Actually, we won't.
No, leave it in. Oh, it's authentic. Yeah. No, it's pivotal because like you need a commercial setting in a real world environment, especially with like logistics and supply chain that we operate in. Like you need that in order to kind of further incubate and iterate all that, and commercialize the solution. Yeah, the beta customers, I've read some A16Z blog posts and stuff and other articles that design partners just the standard startup nomenclature for essentially your free customer stage that you're working with people. Okay. And then they mature to early adopters, which is paid customers that usually get a pretty good discount because they're early adopters of a new technology, new company, new solution. Yeah, design partners, that beta / free customer, which is why we did a limited scope. Like we only tagged 100 assets for them. And there's a few reasons. 100 assets was, again, just less volume. But we also did it with our first version of the beacon that I kind of designed and built for just getting like tracking purposes. So when we knew we had to later go to a point of commercialization, which is kind of what we're looking for this year, it's less things to pull out or swap, right? From the learnings of what we did with the limited. So it was just enough assets where it didn't cost a ton of money in hardware, learnings in the limited volume still. And then when we go to commercialize, if we have to change things, it wasn't, a ton of stuff to rip out and find because these things float in the field. So you have to like get your hands on them to like swap the new hardware in.
So you'll have to physically go out, you or somebody representing.
Now Hansel will help us find them.
Yeah.
No, well, we still track it. So when we got to swap that, we can.
So you got to go physically pick up those devices, swap them out for the latest version, etc.
Yeah. Or we can now we've got alerts in the system. So maybe we can just set our alerts for our customers. And when they come back to the warehouse, like they can just be notified to swap it.
There you go.
Seriously. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, cool. So started with design partners last year. So I guess like once Jason came on full time in September, finally, such a long burn. I guess how quickly were you able to, you're at early adopters now, right? Or no?
Yeah, we are just in the process right now as we speak of transitioning one of our design partners to an early adopter, meaning broadening their coverage of assets. I have our legal counsel drafting our customer agreement now.
Nice.
Because you just need those things. So, and we're at a place like you got to have that stuff in place. And so, yeah, we're literally this week and next, one of our design partners is doing a 2-week audit. And so they're putting their hands on every implant bank tote. I know difference between the tray and the implants, we can get into that if we want to, but without getting too far off on a tangent on that, but like they're touching everything. They're touching about 800 or 700 of these things. Wow. So, yeah, last weekend and a little bit of that week, I pretty much lived at their place, worked. I had to get all of our devices ready. So they're tagging, they're up to 420 active tracked devices as of this morning. And there will be over 800 in 2 weeks. And then we'll follow on later to do their trays.
Okay, so they're going kind of that transition from design partner to early adopter. They're going from 100
to 2100.
2,100 total.
I mean, that's their, yeah.
And that'll be essentially your first paying customer at that point? Start to cash flow?
Yeah, we'll have the first paid customer. Yeah.
Are you excited about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Unbelievably excited.
That's awesome.
I mean, this year for us is about experimentation with the business model and pricing. So last year was, we're still experimenting with software, but software is actually in a really pretty robust spot with a lot of the foundational things there where, this year's kind of learning that, talking to your ICP, different groups might have different needs in the software. And then just kind of learning and understanding, the pricing tolerance and how we've structured that. And
how much time did you spend, especially during the design partner phase? I mean, you've been working on this now for
2.5 years.
2.5 years.
Full time.
You've been full time personally on this 2.5 years.
Yep.
Obviously, Jason's been working nights and weekends and now full time. How much time did you put into like the pricing model up front versus like just making sure you had product market fit and then, spending more time thinking about that and figuring out what those experiments would be?
Yeah.
Because I'm in conversations right now with other founders where we're in that really early phase, and I'm actually not trying to convince them, but even myself, I'm like, well, I feel like we could easily go down a lot of not useful rabbit trails trying to figure out pricing before we even have a product market fit.
Good question. I would say, honestly, I've had conviction that we've had product market fit. We just haven't had the product to fit the market yet.
Okay. I like that. Yeah.
Seriously.
Sure.
Cause like my experience of the last startup, Digital Medical, like we talked about on the last podcast, I just had such a visceral like intuition that this was, I literally got off a sales call with the Spine Group that was a cold outreach to me. I talked to their sales office coordinator, and she said verbatim, like, you guys are geniuses. This is what we've been talking about for 10 to 15 years. And so when you hear stuff like that, I'm not saying that we're geniuses, but it is flattering. But like when you hear stuff like that, it just validates that like, yeah, my gut was right.
Yeah.
Right. So I had enough of those conversations to have the feeling that like, if you build it, they will come type of thing. Like it's just waiting there to be solved. It's not an easy problem to solve, which is why it hasn't been solved. And frankly, the people with the industry expertise don't have the technical expertise to build the thing. Jason and I kind of fit this perfect gap of like, we have just enough of both of those things to like be the team that builds this kind of what we've always said is like this custom but off the shelf solution for this industry. So product market fit, it's more of a point of like, how do we price the thing in a way that allows Hansel to be successful, but also doesn't like, I'm just not the person. I try to price it fairly. Like I want it fair for Hansel to be a successful business, but also to make sense operationally for the customers that we sell to. Cause we're going to start with orthopedic distributors and then we'll evolve the platform to serve the medical device manufacturers, which is more of an enterprise sale, and they're the ones that own the assets. And I think we talked about that on the last call.
Yeah, right.
And then later we'll get into hospitals. So like this year's try to get our first 5 to 7 paid customers, 5's the goal. 7's like, all right, anything more is cushy, it's cool. And we may not even have full capacity of like, can we tag all their stuff, right? Product market fit felt like it was there. Really, we just had to build towards it. And actually we got off a really great follow-up call with a manufacturer that we've been talking to. And the conversations are getting in a place now where they're having questions about certain use cases or scenario. Can the software do this? What about this thing? What about that? And we pretty much have answers for most of those things,
Nice.
which is a great feeling. Because even just 3 months ago, it was like, well, we're building towards this, right?
Yeah.
And now we have a lot of these kind of nuances covered. So for pricing, Jason and I have kicked that around the entire time. I mean, because we talk about everything about the business. The culture we want to build, the way we want to structure the team or teams, pricing, go-to-market strategy, marketing, all that stuff. Like we're literally in a stream of consciousness, like together as a co-founding team to discuss it. So, I think I started in Techstars with user-based pricing. I think when I went into Techstars, actually my pitch deck. Yeah. So when I went into Techstars, that's kind of where my mind was. That's traditional SaaS, right? Seat licenses. It's evolved to, it just makes sense to do it per device as a SaaS model. And so it's just been a constant dialogue literally over the last year and a half. We're pretty settled right now that our best offering for us as a business and our customers in the way that it makes sense is to price it as a SaaS model per device at some per month, whatever, right? And that scales with our hardware needs because we're not in the business of selling the hardware to our customers. So a lot of IoT or hardware-ish customer, like they might sell it as a CapEx sale, and then you have the OpEx for the SaaS solution. Yeah, we just want it to be one purchase for SaaS, and we have such lightweight we have lightweight hardware. It's still a cost to us, so we have to like structure things. So I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, I think that does, because I think what I hear you saying is like definitely had some pricing ideas going into this. Even obviously things that were in your pitch deck that you were giving to investors, but really, a year later or close to a year later, as you guys have been in continual evolving conversations, and even just as you're building it, kind of realizing like, oh, there's actually going to be more costs here and not there, and just very, very kind of evolving into like, okay, I think this is what our actual pricing's gonna be. And I think the lesson I hear there is kind of what I alluded to, which is, all models are wrong. Some are useful. It's good to have a pricing model, to have an idea going into it, but you're not really going to know what that is until you're a year into it and you figure out what actually happens.
And I've said that that's part of the innovation. It's not just the technology. Like there's innovation in like the business structure. I think the way that we're approaching it is not actually, it's nothing that I've come across in any other capacity. I'm sure it's out there. I mean, I'm sure we're not the first, but like, at least in this domain within orthopedics and healthcare, I haven't seen anything that's like this. You usually just like RTLS, real-time location services, right? Like that's a acronym for that, like tracking stuff.
Right.
Yeah, I think traditionally it's like you're going to buy the hardware and then this is what the solution costs. But another reason not to do that, so there's frankly financial benefits for the company. For us to just own the capital, we can write it off as those are assets we own. So from an EBITDA perspective, it's better performance as opposed to us selling it. But we don't want to get in the business of our customers owning the hardware, because then these things, so if we serve a distributor and later we serve a manufacturer that distributor reps their product of, both those people need access to the inventory, and they have different personal needs of accessing that, whereas the distributor's like trying to execute cases, drive revenue, do operations. Manufacturer wants to understand like more of the landscape globally of like what their assets are doing. So they're both accessing the data of tracking or scheduling against their assets. So like if distributor purchases the hardware, but manufacturer later comes on board, you just kind of get in this wonky thing of like, well, distributor bought the hardware. And so it's just easier for Hansel to own the hardware. We also own the replacement of the hardware. So when our tags come to life, it's like, so we have to factor that into our business model too, right? So that's things to consider, right? So if the thing only has a battery life and they're only used once, which they are, by the nature of the way we use them and we've designed them, we'll have to replace them.
Once the battery's out.
And that's the thing with the lawyers too, is like, how do those nuanced mechanics work within the agreement?
Because that's like depreciation of hardware and assets. And
Yeah.
stuff,
Well,
right?
it's also like, what happens if the facilities just clip them out of the trays, or our customer just loses 500 of them or whatever? Like, you have to have that stuff covered in the agreement of like, yeah, we'll replace the beacons, assuming that they're just died in battery life.
Right.
Or failed for whatever reason, but not because some unforeseen thing that we couldn't control, that we're out of the money. Like, it just has to make sense, you know?
Sure.
And that's the goal.
That's cool. Yeah. There's so much to think through, man. That's one thing that.
What's fun about being a founder.
It's
like, there's all these different, you're stretching your capabilities. Like, you don't just get stuck doing the same. You're not doing the same thing every day. You're doing, I mean, probably too much of things anyways, for anybody to really manage as effectively as possible. I do. Right.
Yeah.
But there's so much diversity, I would say, in like what you get to do and explore.
You have to love it. You know, you have to be built for it. I think it's easy to glamorize the life, but I think we even talked about this. I don't know if it was on the podcast or maybe beforehand, but it's easy to glamorize the life of the founder. But I mean, it is something you have to kind of be built for, and you have to love that roller coaster. Like every week, some new thing. You know, now you got to be a financial expert. Now you got to be a pricing expert. Now you got to also continue to be a Bluetooth expert. Yeah, you know,
and you got to re-up your knowledge. I mean, you keep some of it, but like depending on how far away you remove from it, you always have to like re-up, like get yourself back up to speed on that. Yeah,
there's pressure too. Do you feel? I'll be honest. I feel pressure in the age of AI. People expect, and I can't speak to investors as thoroughly. Oh, wow.
That's okay. Leave it in.
I was kidding. We have an audience. Yeah.
All right.
I can't speak to like how investors are approaching the industry, but as a primarily technical person, I feel a lot of pressure to be producing more now than I ever have before. And some days it feels legitimate. Like, yeah, I can do a lot more with AI. And other days it's like you said, like, hey, just because I can chat GPT and ask a question, and I probably did that 6 months ago, like my brain is still the same size brain, you know? So there's like only so much new things I can actually learn and do on a day-to-day basis. Do you feel that pressure?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's, it's unlocked another level of productivity. We'll say, to your investor comment, I mean, I had a call with the VC because we announced the closing of the pre-seed recently I did it on LinkedIn. I did it in the last company update, got some responses there. So I met with a venture capital firm this week, actually, to just have like a catch up touch point call. You know, they like to build a relationship early, which I appreciate. And I mean, in the world of AI, I mean, that whole industry is kind of like up in arms right now, or like kind of chaos. Because it's like we're actually kind of lucky in the sense that we, you know, again, for better or worse, people traditionally didn't want to invest in hardware, but now I think that like that's a moat. Yeah. You build the hardware, because if you're just doing pure software, it's only easier to like replicate the software. So what is your differentiator? What is your moat? And that's what this person at this VC firm said, frankly. He's like, yeah, we like the fact that you guys got the hardware. We kind of like hardware light companies for that reason now. Also, so couple things. The progress that we've made in the software, and that Jason's, I mean, I say we talk from a product perspective, and I help test and whatever. Jason builds it all. Sure. So I definitely don't want to take any shine from him. He deserves his flowers. But like, we've made ungodly amounts of progress, well, with him too, like because of the way he is. Right. I mean, he's a G. But we've made so much progress in the software that we could have only hoped to get because of AI. And that's why we were having those sales conversations where we got a lot of the bases covered because of that. I mean, dude, the robustness of our platform for just two guys building it is pretty impressive. So, but I want to caveat that with, we still find the scenarios where Cursor went off and built something that like didn't work the way it planned it to, right? So you still got to test it. Yeah. And so it's not like perfect. It's not like AI's. Jason and I talk about this, and he's a very good product-minded, design-minded engineer or architect.
He is. He is.
Rare to find, which is also what I liked about him early on. I could see that. Yeah. Right? And I loved it. It's not easy to find because I've worked with developers a lot of my career. We listening to podcasts recently, call it Lenny's or, founders or whatever. It's probably typically Lenny's talking in this technical capacity, but like the value chain of building products is actually driving towards product management or design because AI for the engineering part of the product trio, right? So you got product, design, engineering. AI can get a bulk of the engineering kind of accomplished. Like Jason still has to be the mastermind behind it, puppet master, pulling the strings, having agents doing things. We just talked about on this morning on a call. He's like, it is like I have a team of devs. I just get them off doing things. And he's so forward thinking of trying to be using the latest tooling. And he was talking about how our web app framework has this AI MCP set up now. So he's toying with that. Like he's always on the edge of it, which is awesome. Yeah. I love that for him because I think he loves tinkering with that stuff. And then he starts to think about how it can benefit Hansel. So your original question was like investors, AI, uncertainty.
And just I think you as a founder, do you feel more pressure to be more productive? Because like, hey, how come you're not using...
That's always there.
I heard the headline that, somebody used this new sales thing to increase their sales 1,000%. Why are you doing that?
Well, yeah. And like, right. Yeah. At some point it's like, you got to just land on the tooling. Yeah. And like, there's always something like, Claude Cowork came out, right? And that had a huge blow up of like on the X and the LinkedIn feeds and everybody's talking about it. I still haven't delved into how I could use it because I do more of the business side of stuff. Yeah. How can I use that to automate things I do? And so it's on my list to like, let me get I think there's that $100 a month tier that they have. I want to pay for that so you can get the Cowork benefits. But I just try not to pay attention too much to the noise because like you just still got to do the work. And if you're always worried about, am I behind? You have to pay attention enough to like make the decisions. But I think we've selected, like we use Linear for our product management task setup. And we got a very simple flow, which works for us because we don't have to go very deep in like acceptance criteria or requirements. We're just able to like kind of put thing on a list and move it up the chain, reviewed, done. But Linear's turned out to be kind of this new, and their design, their product's amazing. So we kind of use that as inspiration. Yeah. Because we're taking some of these concepts of all these different things and how we apply it into medical device and our customers. You think about Jira boards or Kanban boards and software product management, kind of taking some of those philosophies and some of the features and tools and how can we implement that in for our customers.
So that makes me think, especially with, so you actually mentioned the trio, product, design, engineering. And if I look at you two, I see product, I see engineering, design.
We both.
There's a lot of tools that help with design as well. Yeah. How are you guys approaching design?
Well, Jason's got some, I think, baseline frameworks that we're building. Again, we talked about this on the last podcast. So the first one, in the sense that like function matters more than form, right? But
you got early adopters now, and you're going to be doing more sales and stuff going forward.
Yeah, well, I'm actually very happy with Jason's done a fantastic job on the design of all on the design of all experiences. I was going to say like Android's.
Well, yeah, because you guys have mobile apps.
Yeah,
which actually was another thing I was going to bring up. You guys are in the Apple Store now.
Yeah,
was that difficult with the medical space that you're playing in, or no?
No, we had a big change. We had a version push a few weeks back that took a couple, like one or two iterations for whatever reason. But the last like bug fix improvement update we did took 6 hours. Jason's done that several times. He's got it down.
So you've got a mobile app, cross-platform mobile app.
Yeah.
Because I'm still thinking about design and everything. Then you've got probably some kind of web app for the design partners, like when they want to see all the devices that they've got.
It's like a dashboard. It's like it's like a dashboard, but you can dive into other things.
On the web, though?
On the web, okay. Yeah. So browser-based web application and 2 native mobile apps.
Okay. And then
dominantly iOS, though.
Dominantly iOS.
Literally like 98% of them.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So we always go, like when we're building, we do API web first, then we pull it into iOS, then we kind of like duplicate over to Android.
Android gets the
it's less used
crumbs.
yeah.
No,
the Hansel breadcrumbs.
There you go. So design then, because I'm kind of curious. You guys are playing. We talked about this on the last podcast because you're in the medical field. I think there's a lower bar as far as like, you know, whiz bang, cool kid design, whatever stuff. But still, you've got Jason, who's basically owned that. And it sounds like he built a lot of that design stuff.
Yeah, well, what's beautiful is
it sounds like that's worked great.
Yeah, and it looks great. And Jason,
and obviously you've given him a lot of feedback.
Well, and that's the partnership in it. Jason has great taste too. So he we usually talk about the business requirements. He builds it up. You know, we test it out. We talk about things, subtle things. We both can be particular, and so which I like about him, and I appreciate. So there's, you know, attention to detail of things that we both care about for design. I mean, so yeah, he gets like the first pass, and I mean, even when we show our current solution, I think I talked about it. I mentioned it in the last podcast where I say, give us grace.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, like not that it wasn't good. I mean, it's fantastic. Like, it's way better than what most of our users are used to, like substantially from an aesthetics standpoint. So it'll only get better, but we're using kind of, I think, like more standard frameworks, icons, you know, design classes, things like that, to just move faster now, because, you know, I think Airbnb's out there is like one of those, you know, well-respected, like design product companies, but there's just I think there's actually a lot of work to set up all that customization of that design. So again, you want to make trade-offs when it makes sense. So he's got those frameworks on the back end, and probably within Swift or Xcode for iOS. But then we use magic patterns. It works well for us. Jason loves it too. And actually, he uses it more than I do. I started it with my Lenny's. I pay for the year Lenny's membership, and he has that whole product perk page, which is actually really fantastic. It's a really good, if you're a founder out there, pay $100 or $120 for a year for Lenny, or $200 maybe, and you'll get a year of all these other things that'll pay for that. No question.
That's awesome.
So we pay for magic patterns, and then I ended up getting Jason a license, because I'm the one that pays for the Lenny's thing. He could if he wanted to, but anyways. So like, what's cool is we have the web app or apps mocked up or designed already, so we can take screenshots, throw it into magic patterns, prompt magic patterns. It doesn't give you like the exact output that you want. It's good though. It's like, it's good. And then you iterate with it, and then Jason can take those screenshots, put them into Cursor against his already like development environment, and then and Cursor's coming out with, like, he sent me a post on X where they got like this product testing iteration mock-up, where it like does a UI click so that you can just review, did it build the thing the way I wanted it to.
It's getting wild out there, man. It's like, even just last couple of days of talking to, you know, my team and stuff, and just like, you know, like you said earlier, it's like, okay, like, I don't want to get distracted with every shiny headline, but like, I think that engineers right now do need to be spending a fair bit of their time like trying the new tools, but also like finding the right one that they need for their project, and working that into their daily workflow. I think for engineers, and I haven't learned development, it's always been, and frankly, it's kind of gotten to a point where I think the skills I built for the last 15 years have positioned me in a place where like AI could actually help me with the engineering aspect. And the skills that I think I have I used to draw, I think I have a decent design taste, and I'm definitely, most of my career I've spent in the product aspect, where like engaging with people, asking the right questions to decipher where the value is for them in building the product. That's where I think even, you know, I think highly skilled engineers, they're better served to kind of like stretch their skill sets into the business requirements and design aspect. That's my philosophy. Again, non-developer here, but like, even listening to technical people on these podcasts talk about it, they're saying the same thing. All the value chain's driving up to business requirements and design. So having good taste and being able to build the right thing that delivers the right value for the customer, that's where it's at. Yeah, this is what I've called spec-driven design. So like in the software world especially, we used to talk about test-driven design or behavior-driven design. And it's like, you know, it's a way to point the engineer back to like, well, what's the business requirements? Like try to get them to think more in line with the business. And, you know, I definitely think that I think we're getting fairly close to the world where it's spec-driven design, meaning Greg gives me that linear project with, you know, the requirements, and I'm basically just feeding that as is almost into the AI as it's building everything. And you've got specifications around what's my architecture, what's my platform, what's my business requirements, what's the business flows. If I just have all that super well documented, like in the repository,
Yep.
you know, if you're technical, it's like we keep code in repository. I think we're going to keep requirements in
You do.
repositories, right? Specifically, and then structured in such a way to where the AI is just like, I see the updated requirements. Let me go build it, run all the tests, validate that it's good, and then you're just doing user acceptance testing on the other end of it.
Yeah. I listened to recently. I keep mentioning Lenny's, but I think it's the most applicable.
Lenny's is amazing.
It is.
If you're listening to this, go listen to Lenny's.
Yeah. I mean, it really is. I mean, he's served a need, and it's for when you talk about product and design and all this stuff. It's just it's the most applicable podcast for all the things we talk about right here. But he had so I keep referencing. I just want to preference that. It's one of my top ones. I probably have 4 or 5, whatever. But he had a guy that literally got hired by Lovable as a vibe coder.
I saw
so
that
interesting.
one, yeah.
Yeah. So listen to it if you get the time. It's interesting. Yeah, he's able to build all these products with. Oh, that's what I was going to talk about. Sorry, I lost train of thought there for a split second. But like, he has no technical background.
Yeah.
And Lovable just hired him as a vibe coder, which is crazy, right? Yeah. But he also, anything that you hear about in these scenarios, though, what you learn if you like pay attention and dig a little deeper in your thought about it, is like it's all just about curiosity and like exploring and then trying to find the solution. So he's done a really good job at that, which is why he was hired in kind of this product software technical capacity without even having any technical background. But he talked on that podcast about setting up like PRD documents.
Yep.
So long tangent to get to the root. Like, yeah, he's setting up these structured things because what happens when you burn tokens, and Jason and I've talked about this and speculated, and like nobody really knows what the tokens are and how they get burned and blah, 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 all this stuff, right? Like how the hell and I think frankly the AI companies are still trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
But
back to exploratory pricing.
But so context prompting and context for the AI matter. And so he's talking about that. And again, the non-technical guy recognized that because he paid attention and it was intentional. But like, if you make a prompt for the thing to build, for the AI to build the thing, and then it has to go through your entire code base to get context, they gave the example on the podcast where like maybe you would rinse, 80% of the tokens just on the AI, like relearning itself to what it needed to do. And then it spends 20 or 30% of the tokens for that thing on building the outcome, right? And so if you put those PRD documents or design documents or things as always as these reference points for it to work from, then you kind of maximize your AI utilization, I think.
I think too that I'll try not to go too far down this technical road, but just as a...
You'll go deeper than me, I think.
Yeah, well, and I feel like there's a need to, I don't know, give hope or something to the engineers out there. Because I do think that, it's been said recently that the 0 to 1 problem is solved because Lovable's hiring a full-time vibe coder who can go from 0 to 1, which, also the pessimist in me is like, well, of course, Lovable has a great interest in creating a title called professional vibe coder and then hiring somebody for that role. Just think about incentives, guys, number one.
Yeah, that's a great point.
But number two, I think that like the projects I'm working on, some of the projects I'm working on now, and I think where you guys are approaching is like the system's just too big. There's just too many requirements. You've got multiple different platforms. So I think that like I still, on the one hand, yes, 0 to 1 is solved, but I think that, 1 to 10 or whatever that next phase is after that absolutely is going to still require an engineer to be managing all of that, all the agents, as it were, and setting up those systems. Go ahead.
I'll add to your point because in that same podcast, his mention was like, I built the thing quickly and in a way that the engineers could understand fully how it needed to work. And I think that traditionally was the harder part to like translate. So it allows him to whip that up, get it in front of the customer, whatever. He still said, but then that thing was able to go into productions after 6 months of engineering. So yes, just allows experimentation. It allows better experimentation or the 0 to 1 for proof of concept, but you still need somebody like a Jason or a Dan to come in and like know how to scope the thing and build the thing for scale, security, all that stuff.
And I still maintain, one more thing is I still maintain that, again, AI is amazing for a certain category of problem solving. But if you think about it, AI is one of the most inefficient ways to solve a true engineering problem. So I just made a LinkedIn post where it's like skills came out, right? And like commands and like these agentic things, right? And so, and I see these YouTubers who like have not been engineering for 15 years like me, like I have, or Jason's been doing it for much longer than that. And it's like, I could write a script, like an actual code script that requires 0 tokens to run, runs deterministically, reliably every time. And I see a lot of people that don't know how to write the script. They'll write an agent to do that same workload, but it's burning I don't know how many tokens in a GPU factory somewhere. It's costing money, right? And it takes 2 minutes to run, whereas my script takes 100 milliseconds to run. And so I think there's me being on the very inside of the engineering world. I still see things like that where I'm like, okay, I think there's a lot of non-technical people approaching this as like the new solution to everything. I think that pendulum will eventually swing back where we realize, this $500 billion investment is like, it's like we actually didn't need to do that. Like AI solves a certain category of like reasoning, exploration, all this kind of thing. But at the end of the day, when you need a reliable, repeatable, CPU efficient piece of code to run, like that's what you need. Yeah. And I think it's very unknown what that future looks like. Yep. I'm not going to pretend like I know what it looks like. And I could be wrong that there's some kind of resource constraint, but I don't know. I think that's part that even as I look over the next 5 or 10 years, it's hard for me to see how AI is going to solve some of those like fundamental problems that are still much more efficiently solved by humans. Now you can use the AI to write the code. That's great. Yeah. But to use AI to replace the code, I think that's where
the reasoning.
A lot of junior engineers especially like don't really know how to make that transition.
You're saying like the reasoning behind it?
Yeah, well, like because AI is really good at reasoning, right? And like the text base, like taking the PRD and figuring out stuff. But at the end of the day, like you need the code. So like okay, so one really concrete example, like you just mentioned, Cursor will now have an AI that knows how to click through the browser. Yeah. So we used to have end-to-end tests that did that, but they would run as code, not as an AI exploring. Yeah. So there is a lot of value in having an AI explore, but if you try to take an AI as your full-time tester and replace all of the deterministic tests that you used to write, that is a much slower and more expensive way to actually write and run those tests. And that's what I saw one. I think the reason I bring this up is because I saw a YouTube video where a technical person was essentially like, oh, look, you can have AI do all of your testing for you. And I thought that's a very, not naive, but
short-sighted.
Kind of short-sighted way to approach engineering. Like, can it do that? Yes. Should it do that? Well, no, it's still a lot more efficient now again, exploratory testing, reasoning, like we used to call it like chaos testing or whatever, like random, like that's great. AI is great for that. But when it comes to like validating deterministically that your device is not going to overheat or that it's going to produce the data stream that it needs to.
Well, and at the end of the day, regardless of whether you wrote the code or the AI wrote the code, you pushed it. Yeah. You released it. So it's on you. Yeah, the onus is on you. So like, I mean, I think it can get you 80, 90% there. Awesome. It saves you tons of time that you didn't have to spend doing probably minutiae stuff. But at the end of the day, like it's on you to own what got released,
Ownership does not change. Point. Okay, so sorry for the tangent there.
No, it's all good, man.
Things I've been thinking about lately. Since we talked last, this is still the How Not to Build podcast.
Okay, yeah.
So is there a good story that you can share over the last 11 months where something did not go as planned and you had a big learning because of it? Either product, technical, financial, just anything. Any bit of wisdom you can share with us?
Let me rack my brain. Because like my initial, the reason I'm saying like taking a second and saying let me rack my brain is like my initial thought is there's constant little learnings along the way. For instance, and it's not even technical. This is very basic actually. We get these card beacons because they don't have to be sterilized for the things that we track. And they didn't come labeled, so you didn't know which thing was which in a box, and I ordered 2,000 of them. And so I had to tap every single one to read the ID, and I had to print the label. And when I pulled a box for our customer, so, why we mentioned on the last podcast, and it's a famous saying of theirs, and I'm sure other people have said it too, but do things that don't scale. That is the learnings though. So like when I had to sit there for 15 hours to get these things organized and ready, and then onboard the data, like manage that and manage which devices I pulled to send to Jason to apply to the customer in the back end. Well, now we've learned internal toolings we can build to expedite that process, and things that I can work with on our supplier side to not allow me to have to spend 15 hours getting one customer ready for like 800 devices. So that's not scalable. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah. I don't think there's been any big. There hasn't been any big like like huge. We had the tap to tag thing that we talked about in my office earlier. But again, that's why you do it as the founder. So I don't get, and I try to consciously maintain this perspective of like when you run into a roadblock, that's just a learning for you to like unblock it and figure out how to make it better or fix it. We haven't had any catastrophic mishaps. They're just all those little micro learnings of things. Yeah. I think we take a lot of time and attention and thought into how we approach things. I think we both have pretty good intuition on stuff too. Maybe I don't mean to sound too arrogant about that, but I think we have good intuition on things.
Yeah.
So I was talking about even designing the beacon, right? We were talking about that in the office before we got in here. Like I said, whether it's luck or engineering foresight, things have really worked out well throughout the progression of this stuff. And I think we talked on the last podcast, maybe our hardware design firm, because we have a hardware firm that does the electrical engineering aspect and the custom firmware for us. That's like the one area that Jason, it's just not worth learning. Yep. And let's just get somebody who specializes in this and has experience, blah, blah, blah. And they have manufacturer relationships, which is where we'll go later this year to get somebody else to build them. And so Greg's not doing it. For the learnings and the design of the beacon, it's just kind of worked out in a sense.
Well, I think that's a big testament also, though. We talked about this last time, but just the importance of a founder who's kind of lived and breathed that industry for a long time. Because even in the office, you were telling me about just, you wanting to test, what do you call that machine that you bought in there?
Autoclave.
The autoclave, wanting to test your devices, and like, well, I can't be going on site and asking the customers to do that. I need to do it, right? And you're thinking that way, I think, because you've been in that industry, like how that goes, how it is dealing with big machines like that, medical machines, and so
it's also urgency.
And urgency like has to get done.
I want to move fast. Yeah. I don't want to have to bother somebody to ask them, can we run this through to see if it survives and how many times I do it. So when I bought we talked about it being off Facebook Marketplace, which it was.
Facebook Marketplace.
$700, dude. Resourceful founder. But when we talk about that, it's like that, and I didn't need it to be medical per se, right? I needed it to be environmental, and that served the need. And so in 2024, I was able to just do iterations of, environmental testing and cycles. And now we're at a place where these things are going to be shipped out to a well-renowned, well-known lab in the medical industry. We're going to get sterility testing. I've got a signed letter by an industry consultant on why like our device doesn't need any FDA stuff.
Nice.
And why the specs of it and why it can be put in these trays and it doesn't impact any of that, right? So we're kind of getting our ducks in a row to just empower ourselves and our customers to the facilities to know that like this thing's good,
Yeah.
So
I think the other thing that I really appreciate that I heard in your answer there is just, you said you try to keep that mindset that to just like embrace every little learning, embrace every little, mistake or whatever that might be made. And, having to manually tag 800 of these, devices, I think, and I don't know if this helps anybody listening, but I know for me, a lot of times, kind of going back to the pressure we feel with AI is like, sometimes something will happen and I think I should have known that. Like, why did I make that? Like, that's obvious in hindsight, right? But learning to just embrace that is like, hey, now I know something new. Just going to keep moving forward, just add it to the tool belt.
You'll drive yourself crazy.
Keep going.
As a founder, you'll drive yourself crazy if you don't take that approach. Seriously.
Yeah.
I mean, it's already a hard enough journey. Like, you're going to burden yourself further by getting deflated by everything that comes your way. That's how
it's great though.
I'm not always perfect at it.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? But like, for the most part, I just see them as a different problem to be solved. And it's a perspective shift, whether that's your internal energy, whatever you want to call it. It's how you wake up in the day and like, are you in a bad mood or good mood? Like, this isn't a earth-shattering scenario.
Yeah.
And if you didn't do the work, you wouldn't have learned it. So be happy that you did the work to learn the thing so you can get past it.
Yep.
So and I will say, everything takes longer than you thought it would. When we talked last podcast, I was hopeful that maybe we'd get our first paid customer by the end of the year. Here we are in end of February 26. Now it'll be next month or the month after, right? Things just take longer. And actually, investors know this. You know, so, and I know this, but kind of Elon Musk is notorious for setting like ungodly, unattainable milestones, right? It's a sense of urgency behind it, which is why he does it. So you're always the incentive is you're always pushing to try and meet it. It's like, meaning like we would have got our first paid customer in 25. Maybe it's Q1 or beginning of Q2 of 2026. Right. It's like Jason and I are always pushing as hard as we can reasonably to like further the business to the next stage, right?
Yeah.
So
I do think that's another good insight, because I don't know how other people, I'm no expert at this, but I've come to appreciate the psychological game that is played, because you can play it on yourself, right? There's an old like analogy, I guess, that it's like, hey, if you give yourself until Friday to mow the lawn, you will mow the lawn like Thursday night, right? But if you tell yourself I'm going to mow the lawn, you know, before Tuesday, well, then you do it on Monday. So it's kind of like you fill the time line that you've set for yourself. So I can understand that now, just from a personal perspective of like, Q1, I'm going to set these crazy goals. I kind of know that I'm not going to get there, but they're out there to like tempt me and inspire me and like help me just giving it my all and to never let up on the gas.
Yeah. Well, okay. Couple thoughts that came in my head when you said it. No, it's just, they're fun. But like I set the goal of like, we might have paid 5. The goal is 5 paid customers, because we have 4 design partners live. I have actually some warm leads that are in a pipeline that I just keep in an iCloud note right now. That's my CRM. Nice. Like who's the customer? Who is the person? Where did I find them? Or how did they contact me? Yeah. Very simple. And honestly, it suffices. I just need something quick to reference. Yeah. But you know, we may not hit all 5. Maybe we get 3. You know, we're targeting 5. So there's that. And then there's that aspect of what we're talking about. And then my brain went to the meathead in me, like the weight trainer in me.
Oh yeah.
I had, when I'm on a regular program, a more rigid regular program, which I usually prefer, it just hasn't been that way for a little bit with the founder life, but I would typically like to train 4 days a week. Some of my programs, I would have leg day, and I would do those on Monday. You do the hardest thing first.
Yeah.
And do the hardest thing first to knock it out. You've heard other people talk about this about work projects too. Don't do the little tasks because you're delaying the big thing. Dive into the big thing and get it out of the way. I kind of took that approach for a while when I was on a more regular program. It was like, I did legs Monday. Leg day was Monday. It sucked. And it was Monday of the work week, right? So it was kind of like double whammy. But then it's like, you get to coast. Like, you're not coasting, but you get what I'm saying. It's the other workouts are more fun and exciting to do. And you got past it. And then Monday comes again, and there we go. So that's like attacking. And I have 2 whiteboards in my office now, and like I try to like approach that too with the projects or the things. Like I have to order printed circuit boards for our next wave of tray beacons to get customers live. That's like one of those things that I can do emails. I can talk to Jason about the product, but guess what? The thing that really unlocks the next thing is me sitting down for 2 to 3 hours and making sure I got everything straight to order printed circuit boards for our next wave. Yep.
So true, man. So true. Such good advice. I love that. Yeah.
And again,
I'm realizing I need to get better at that. Like,
well, and I still do too. I'm being vulnerable here and saying I hadn't done it yet.
Sure.
It's been on I know I've been onboarding a customer and we've been doing, everything's important.
Yeah.
But I'm like, that's why those are on my whiteboard, because that is the most important
thing.
That's the thing that
and that is the tough part of being a founder. Everything is important.
Yeah, but
still being able to prioritize and say, no, this is truly the thing that's going to move the needle in the biggest way.
What unlocks the next stage? What I find is like, especially with the hardware game, it's like, or with some hardware stuff in implementation, it's like, you have to think, this is chess, not checkers. Like you got to think a couple steps in advance of like, okay, every week or day that I delay this thing, I don't get it that week, which doesn't unlock me. I don't get it the next week, which doesn't unlock my vendor or us learning or us getting that next step.
Yeah.
Right. So I got all those parts in my office that you saw in the boxes. I can't build our beacons until I order the thing. So like I got to order the thing to get,
Absolutely. Yeah, it's tons of, I think about that as just like time awareness, like lining up the dominoes. It's like, well, this thing's going to take 4 weeks, so I have to like at least get it started now. And during that time, I'm going to do all these other 10 things.
Here's a good argument. I mean, that's a good argument on, it's not about the hours you put in. It's about the quality of the hours.
Yeah.
So if you spend most of your time working on the things that unlock that next step and move the needle most, guess what? Maybe you're not working 80 hours a week.
Yeah.
Maybe you're able to work. I think there's somewhere north of 50, south of 60. That's the good balance. Like you have to work more than most people do and more intensely and focused than most people do to move the needle. I'm personally not a fan of overworking. Like I get it. Elon is like a machine, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm not
We're the normal person.
Yeah. I mean, I grew up in a small town in Missouri, so like whatever.
Yeah.
I guess it wasn't just wired in me.
Yeah.
I'm not the 80, 100-hour work weeks that you hear people glorify.
Yeah.
You know, I work definitely more than the average person.
Yeah.
And even when I mean, if you consider how much time I postulate about the business anyways, it's beyond that. And, and I've had this, I wrote a LinkedIn post about it. It was like, that is work that's outside of work. It's not the cranking work, the engineering that you do. It's whatever. It's the strategizing. It's the reflecting. It's the retrospect. Like that's actually work. So if I go on an hour walk after work or hour and a half to get some steps in, because I sat in front of my computer all day and I'm thinking about work the whole time, that's work.
Yeah.
It's just a different type of work.
100%.
But you're always, what I've found for myself, and it's, again, you just got to know yourself. When I push too hard on like the cranking work too many days in a row, it just burns me out for like a few days after. So it's not worth it. Like what I've found a balance that works for me. I've also posted about that because I think about this stuff a lot. Yeah. And I think it's good to share. It's good to exercise my own thoughts, but it's good to share that. So if somebody identifies with it, plant the seed in their head. Meaning like I generally 10 hours of consistent hard work here in the office in a Monday through Friday capacity, and then 3 to 6 hours on Saturday and Sunday mornings, because that's when I'm most fresh. That's when I want to do the work. I find it more creative. I don't have meetings. So sometimes, sometimes in that 5 hours, I feel like I got more done in that 5 hours than I got done in any 10-hour day that I spent here in the office, because I might have been having conversations. And
that is still difficult for me when, you know, as business owner running projects, whatever, not quite the same founder as you, but very similarly, it's like I'll do a 3-hour phone call and I'll come off that phone call and feel like that's not real work. You know, like the code hasn't improved, a feature wasn't delivered, yada, yada. And I have to like constantly remind myself like, no, that is real work.
Yes. So again, not a distraction, but I'll hop on. Sometimes, luckily now Jason being full-time, like, so if I get in at 7, it's 5:30 his time. 12:30 his time. He's 6 hours ahead.
You get up at 7 a.m.
If I get in here at 7:30, so it's 1:30 his time. Sorry, it's 1:30 his time.
It's
6 hours.
1:30 in the afternoon
his time. So we have like my first 3 hours and his last 3 hours is where we really have the time to sync on a call, talk about things. And we might spend some mornings we don't get on a call. Some mornings it's 30 minutes to an hour. There's been a few where we're on a call, on a Teams, a Google Meet call for 3 hours talking about stuff. But all of this stuff is like IP or institutional knowledge and strategy that we're talking about. And that lays the foundation for both of us to kind of go off on our way for the things that we're talking about.
Yep.
And he also we like to bounce things off of each other, right? Like whether it's hardware or something that I'm managing on the business side, it's just good to have a sounding board on things.
Yeah, for sure.
So
for sure. That's awesome. All right. So we chatted 11 months ago. We're pretty much we'll just call this like March 1st, close enough. What do you guys, what's give me the one biggest challenge for 2026. We'll wrap up on this.
Yeah.
And what's the one biggest, thing that you're looking forward to for 2026?
I mean, the biggest challenge is converting the customer, selling, getting that first paid, like signed on a dotted line. We see the value, we're going to pay for it. And what was the second part? Sorry.
What are you looking forward to? Like optimistically, what's the biggest opportunity that you're looking at?
I mean, if we do well enough, we cover our burn. Then I'm in a position to intently decide how we grow this company next. You don't want to be the founder that's I don't mean this maliciously, and if anybody watches this that is an investor or interested in us, I don't mean this maliciously, but it's a thing of leverage. They know it. We know. I mean, if you're a smart enough founder, you know it. You don't want to be in a position where like, oh, I need the money to keep the thing alive. You want to be in a position where it's like, we're covering our bases at least, right? So that you can choose the right partner for the right strategy that fits what the founders want, whether it's a quick exit, whether it's a long-term game, whatever it is. Like, you just get optionality as a founder when you have that freedom. Now, I'm not paying myself near what I've made in other opportunities, right? I don't care about that though, right now. Right. If we cover, I got a number in my head for ARR, that if we hit that, it's like, okay, like this thing's running itself in a sense, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we're covered.
if you get those, all right, is that feasible by the end of this year, do you think, to get to that point?
I think that's the Elon target. that's the Elon target.
Yeah.
If I'm being real, I mean, by the time
He's going to do it, folks. He's going to do it.
We're going to do everything we can to. I will say, like I said earlier, things always just take longer than you think they will. And again, investors know that too. So trying to be mindful. So yeah, pushing as hard as we can every day to hit that part. You got to understand, even if we get customers onboarded in a paid capacity, they might not be fully onboarded to their full ACV, annual contract value. They might not be fully onboarded by the end of the year. Right. So maybe we agree on pricing and we have the sales call and they're ready to move forward, but maybe their go live wasn't until August, and then I don't know, something like that, right? Where we're not,
and they're onboarding maybe a couple hundred at a time.
The revenue doesn't necessarily match. The total AR won't necessarily totally match that covered and burn yet. So because there is just two of us, and I think that's our first full-time hire, is essentially somebody that's like product implementation, customer success. I don't mean this degradingly, but like kind of like a mini me or a me 2.0, like a second version of me. We need people that can go work with the customer, learn from the customer, know our product, implement it, have the same communication style Jason and I have would be ideal. That's our first hire.
Yeah.
That's the first team member I bring on, in my opinion. Jason agrees too. We talked about it. And well, that's a good lead into the final question, is just as we wrap up here, like same question I asked last time. Who are you looking to connect with? Who's a good person to reach out to you if they're interested in what you're doing? Yeah, I would say we're not ready to hire yet. If we cover our burn, I think that puts me in a position to intently raise one more round of capital with the right partners. And that would be a round of capital that would support kind of this team expansion aspect. And then we would, that's where I would hire the person. So, but knowing people sooner rather than later, same thing I treat it with like sales leads, anything. It's like, I try to build the relationship as soon as possible. Investors too. It's like, that's why the investors reached out, because they get my company updates every month, and they've been getting them for a year plus. And then they see I closed the round and they're like, okay, this guy's doing what he says he's going to do. And then they want to build that relationship. So that way, when I'm in the position to need the raise a seed round, we're like, yeah, Greg does all the shit he said he was going to do. And his co-founder and him, they just keep executing. And so then I also get to build the relationship of like, is this firm person a partner that I want to work with? Do they fit us as well? Because we've been very blessed with the people that have invested in us and have backed us. We don't have kind of like your traditional VC where like they seem to set unreasonable expectations and not be patient. They know we're pushing as hard as we can to get this thing going, and they're actually very supportive, very patient. So people to reach out to, like, I guess if you're interested in what we're building, I think, Jason and I are really fun guys to work with. Look, I'm definitely a culture fit is probably my top thing. And as long as you have curiosity, you can learn the stuff. Skills will be nice, but I've always felt in my career, like when people put job descriptions together and they have like, oh, you got to have X number of years for this, and this, blah, blah. I'm like, well, like the person has to you want the person that doesn't actually meet all those, because they have to have ways to grow in their own professional capacities, right? Yeah. So I always find it weird that you like set these requirements for people to meet for the job, when it's like, don't you want the person that wants to grow and learn? So they shouldn't necessarily meet it. Because like, as a younger guy, I'm getting kind of chills thinking about it, because it strikes a chord for me, actually. Because I've always felt when didn't know I was doing software product management and think I feel and believe that I think in these strategic higher level ways and able to connect dots and have good taste and have, it just, the role fits me. And I would potentially interview, and maybe my experience didn't match. It just didn't look traditional. I didn't come from a big company. I came from all these startups. I did some sales. I bounced around a little bit, right? We talked about that in the last podcast. So when I build Hansel and build our team, I take those as like, I won't do that. So it'll be, anyways, that's a long tangent. And I think that I don't know. I hope that people that would want to work with us can appreciate that's perspective that I take on it. So that would be first and foremost. And if you're interested from an engineering standpoint, we will grow that. We won't have a big engineering team. And if you want to learn from the best, give us a shout. Jason's one of them, I think. I don't know. Anyways, and
he is, yeah.
Very good, man. It's unreal. So if you want to, build something cool and learn from somebody who's, into everything. We'd be a good place for it. So the sooner the better. It's always good to build relationships early. And then any medical device professionals people know in orthopedic sales, distributor owners, manufacturers, send this link to them. Reach out to Dan, get my contact info, something like that. And then any investors that watch this, thanks, I guess. Hopefully they can reach out to. Hopefully our current investors appreciate the dialogue that we've had.
That's the one thing I'll say about all that you just said is I tell Noah all the time. It's like ideas are easy, execution is hard. I've been following you guys for 11 months. It's like execution is what you guys do.
Yeah.
So I think great job to you guys, and I look forward to the next update, maybe a year from now, to
yeah, we might have to make this an annual thing, man.
See how it goes. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I appreciate you, man. You're, like I said before we got in here, I think when I listened to the old one, just to make sure I didn't, like I said, repeat myself too much, which I don't think we did. So it's awesome. But I appreciate the energy that you bring to the conversation, and I think you're good at doing this, man.
Thank you.
So,
dude, it's good having you on. Yeah, appreciate you.
Yeah. All right.